Methuselah was purported to be the oldest man ever to have lived, or oldest person ever to have lived. And I sometimes feel like the oldest person still involved in the SME sector of business. I guess I'm addicted to it. So I'm going to talk business, and I'm going to tell you what I found over the years. I've had 60 years in business, and I speak what you may consider to be a foreign language. I use words like profit and return on capital invested and positive cash. These are words which were very obvious in my day, but seem to have been lost in the chase, the pursuit for customers and for members and for land grab. And land grab's great, but it can be dangerous. And that's because it involves customer growth at a very early stage of a business in order to prove to investors that that business is going to be a valuable business. But that means that the owners of that are going to be diluted very early. My views are controversial, they're simple, they're quite challenging, and I hope you find some of them of value to some of you as I crumble into retirement. What is the definition of business? Well, the best I ever heard was quite simply, I heard it either at London Business School or the Institute of Marketing, and quite simply, it was identifying a need and fulfilling that need at a profit. Very simple. It works for any trade in any sector, large or small, anywhere in the world. I'm going to give you one very simple, probably the simplest of all, example of that. We'll take a most obvious commodity, water, and hot water. Primitive people who lived near swamps, for example, found that they had fire, but they also got very ill because they were drinking polluted water. So they found concave stones or animal skins in which to heat the water over the fire. It wasn't very effective, but they found that by drinking that water, when it was cooler, they actually didn't get so ill. 3,500 BC, very much later, iron kettles and bronze kettles were formulated and were invented. And in 1891, so much later, domestic electricity enabled people to boil water through a kettle. And that was invented by an American company called Carpenter. And then some Londoner called Harry Bramson invented a whistling kettle, which actually was something which hadn't been perceived. It was a need which was there but wasn't perceived, and it became very popular in telling people when their water had boiled. And 47 years later, a Dutchman, Henri Peterai, invented a product called a quooker, which, as you will know, is boiling water straight from the tap. Where's that market going? Well, I'll tell you one thing. I read in the Sunday Times recently, and you may well have done too. This is incredible. The 2 factories in the United Kingdom, in the West Country, are being planned to produce jet aircraft fuel from water and air. Isn't that absolutely extraordinary? I'm going to turn now to a very old cliche, which many of you will have heard, and that is that sales are vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is reality. Sales are vanity. Today, as I've said, VCs and private equity is absolutely obsessed with sales, and it's got some dangers to it. Profit, of course, is sanity. It makes a lot of sense. It's what we're all in business to make. But is it actually sanity? Because it can be otherwise. Cash is actually reality. Why is cash reality? Because profitable businesses can go bust. They can go bust. How can they go bust? Their customers not paying them in time, or even becoming bad debts, which is even worse. Or they're unable to sell overstock, products they've invested in. Happens particularly in fashion businesses. Or the laws are becoming more and more draconian, rightly so in many ways. Governance of business, particularly financial services, etc., is very strong indeed. They can run against the law, sometimes unwittingly, and get big fines. So cash is actually the reality of business. I have 3 descriptions which make up my business philosophy, and I've proved them over the years. And the first one is helicopters. You climb into your virtual helicopter, not a real one, of course. You don't get involved. You fly over the industry you're looking at, or the trade or market that you're looking at. You don't get involved in the detail. You don't get involved in the culture. You don't get involved in it's always been done this way. But you fly over in reverse order. You go first and fly over the customer. The customer is king. Check out what you think that customer is getting from that particular product or service. What's the benefit to them? How is it perceived by them? What value has it to them? How can it be actually done better? Think virtually, think globally, think broadly. How can it be better? How can it be cheaper? How can you make it lighter? How can you make it more attractive? How could you make it better for them? And then you fly back over the industry. You go through the retailer. You go over the distributor. You go over the manufacturer. You look at the raw material producer, whether it be agriculture, fishing, or growing something, or whether it be software developing, or whatever. And you look at the conception of the product, and you look at the whole trade and think, how can this trade be improved? What can I do for the customer? And which part of the trade am I going to angle to do that to make it a better experience? My second section is called boiled sweets. What do you do with boiled sweets, guys? You put them in your mouth, you suck them, and you see what you think about them. Well, you suck it and you see. You go into the market and you talk to the people who'll talk to you in that market, whether they be the customer. Well, you talk to them all, actually. You talk to the customer, you talk to the retailer, you talk to the distributor, you talk to the manufacturer, and you talk to the raw material producers. And you say, I've had this idea. What do you think of it? Do you think it could improve your life, could improve the service that this industry gives you? And they will tell you what they think of it, and they will engage with you because you've gone at a very early stage and you've embraced them. And actually, those people will very often become your champions of the future, which is very important. So you talk to them, you get their feedback, you check it very carefully, you modify your product, and with this collegiate approach will get you a very long way for nothing. They'll give you their time for nothing because you're talking about their problems, and people love to talk about themselves. And then you bootstrap your prototypes. If you need to make a prototype, don't make it all fancy and expensive. I recently was approached by an inventor. We went to see the biggest company in this industry in the United Kingdom with a cardboard model, very badly made cardboard model, which he made. And we showed it to them, and they absolutely embraced the idea. And the CEO started making his own cardboard model and saying, if we did it this way, I'll do it that way. It was absolutely marvelous. We were there for nothing, talking to the top of the industry, getting their ideas. And the third part of my strategy, so we've had helicopters and boiled sweets, is little piggies. Now, a lot of you in the audience won't even understand this when I tell you where it came from, but it's a nursery rhyme which my generation played in England with children. And basically, the piggies are the toes. And the little piggy is the little toe. But the big piggy, the big piggy goes to market. It ends up in hysterics, but that's another question. The fact is, the big piggy goes to market, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to go straight to market. You're going to start selling your product. Yes, selling it. You're not ready, but you're selling it. So you actually go and start selling your product, and then you listen. Then you really, really listen to your customers and to all the other parts of the industry, because they will complain once they're paying for something, and they will tell you what's wrong with it. And then, again, you refine, you incorporate. Even with software, don't develop your software from the beginning because you will develop the wrong software. Let the market define what you need. Buy it SaaS, software as a service, for the time being, and then bespoke. Then hire your developers, etc. So bingo, you're in the market with the new product on a shoestring. Now, I call this part growing oak trees without acorns because I've actually proved this. And in the second 30 years of my career, in actually 10 years of that, with an excellent business partner, I proved that we could start 5 companies, develop them very profitably, and exit 4 of them, we kept the last, over 10 years on starting with £2,000 capital. That was all the investment that was ever made. We ended up 50-50 owners of those businesses, and they drove their own cash flow. And we did that in traffic, with road signs, in car park construction, in modular homes, which were built in a factory in Dunsfold, actually, where they make Top Gear now, in self-storage, and in outdoor media, completely disparate areas of trade and industry. And we had very simple rules. And the rules were, number 1, and actually number 2 and number 3, innovate. You have to innovate. You have to come up with something new. Innovation will drive margin. And margin is exceptionally important because margin will drive your business. It'll enable you to price your product up to the needs of the customer, the additional service that it's doing to that particular customer. So if you're making high margins and not pricing down to the cost to you, you're going to be bringing in much more cash, which will actually fund your business. And that is not cash to go in the pockets of the owners. It's cash to get the best people working with you, to remunerate them really well, to give them fantastic benefits and make them really part of your team, really embrace it, own it with you. It's cash to fuel the ingredients that you put into your products. Buy the best, not big flashy offices. All of our businesses were started in car park, in literally, garages, literally car parks, garages. I know it's proverbial, everybody says that, but we literally did start in a garage, and we developed it into a little office, etc. So we kept our overheads very, very tight indeed. We negotiated hard, and the reason we could do that was that we always paid on time. So that was the 4th rule. Always pay on time. Then your suppliers will really value you, and they'll do all sorts of things for you. They'll give you extra credit. As long as you pay on time at the end of that credit, they'll give you better terms, etc., etc. The most important ingredient you've got in your business is your people. The people are the most important asset that you can possibly have. And I've spent all my life, and I do it naturally, absolutely natural. I call it diving for pearls, for want of a better word description. I'm looking for pearls, everything I do. I'm looking for pearls in the factories I go to. I'm looking for pearls in restaurants I visit. I'm looking for pearls in shops. They may be washing my cars or temping in my companies. And what I'm looking to spot, and you can't check them all out immediately, but what I'm looking to spot is people with positive attitude, great enthusiasm, really owning what they're doing, really liking it, doing things which they're not asked to do, real responsibility for what they're doing, and people which I feel, and you get an intuitive feel about it, I could trust. One guy that I met was a chef. He joined a factory. He was a forklift driver. And I got this feeling about him. He ended up as managing director of the biggest company we started. He's now a great personal friend of mine, and he's done exceptionally well. I spotted a pearl. And I've done that many times with many people, and some of them are still with me today. I love employing chefs because they're terrific managers. You think about it. The people they have to manage are in and out, and they're quite difficult to manage sometimes. The ingredients are coming, and you may not have the right ones for the right dishes which are ordered that day. The orders land, then it's supposed to be served up to total satisfaction of the customer 20 minutes later. It's a very difficult management task. Chefs make great managers. And the other people, engineers, make tremendous people to have in business. Not necessarily as managers, because they learn to think laterally. If they get a problem, they hit the problem, they get around it. That cog's not fitting, I better do it hydraulically. I can't do it hydraulically because the hydraulics getting dry will blow the hydraulics. So it's a very clever, and you can give them a problem, a life problem, a business problem of any sort, and an engineer will think laterally and get around it. At this moment, I'm very jealous of all you young people who are starting in business life, because the opportunities around at the moment are more than I've ever known in 60 years in business. They are absolutely formidable, and they are everywhere. And they've been caused by three, in this country three, but generally two, tectonic plates which are moving in this world of ours. And the first is global warming, which hasn't started moving, but suddenly we're getting recognition, and that's fantastic that we are, through COVID and through Brexit in the UK. So these three things are massive. Any one of them is massive and brings opportunities. But the three together, I cannot think of a single trade or industry that is not affected by one of these three things and where there is not enormous opportunity. So you are coming in at the most exciting stage, and I'm going out, and it's really very dissatisfying for me. But I can think that, for example, in hospitality and travel and retail and property and lifestyle, health, science, you name it, it's everywhere. The opportunities absolutely abound. So go out and grab them. It's as simple as that. I'm really excited for you. I applaud hugely, and we've heard a lot of it today, your absolute rejection of exploitive materialism that's been going on, and your rejection of the criminal blindness to the needs of humanity and the preservation of this wonderful planet of ours. And working with scientists, with universities, with engineers, with benevolent wealth providers, and there are a lot of those, people who've made money who want to do some good with the money they've made, you can, and some of you will, become the leaders that this world needs for its very preservation. So go out and grab them and get it. And thanks very much for listening. And before I finish, I just want to thank my really good friend, Patrick Cafferty of County Down in Ireland, for his wonderful cartoons, which I hope and help to enliven a rather dull business subject. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.